So if Cuphead is based off of old 30s and 40s style animation and cartoons, I should have absolutely zero nostalgia for that time period, right? Except when I was really young, like a wee pogo. We used to have this VHS with old Jerry Lewis stuff, some Abbott and Costello.
I'm telling you, who's on first?
And then it had this animated short called Ants in the Plants. So when I got to phase 3 of this Cuphead DLC boss, I was hit so hard with waves of nostalgia. The DLC was already just a huge blast for me, and this moment, which might not mean that much to everyone, really just sealed in place what I was already thinking. The delicious last course is the perfect ending. Even within the first few hours of the DLC releasing, as more and more people were reaching the final boss and starting to post their thoughts, already some were grumbling that the DLC was way too easy and they were not happy with the length of the game. This line of thinking is simply infuriating to me. First off, the DLC bosses are not pushovers. You won't find any Isle 1 fights here. I would say about half of them are Isle 2 equivalent level of challenge, and the other half are either on par with the Isle 3 bosses or harder. Yeah, so this isn't like a Dark Souls 3 Ringed City DLC, kick you in your balls level of difficulty. So what? Yes, I love the challenge that Cuphead brings, and it's one of the best parts of the game. But you have to realize, this DLC took 4 years. First off, there's no way they're going to expect people to play the entire game all over again and be at the top of their Cuphead skills before going into the DLC. Most players are simply going to purchase the DLC and head right in. If they were to meet with the toughest brick walls right away, the negative feedback would be worse than any time the god-awful Calamity dev releases patch notes. Okay. Too deep of a cut, sorry. Take it from the top. Worse than the time that Donald Trump became a president. The challenge in the DLC comes from A, expert mode, which, disclaimer, I still have not S-ranked everything as of recording, and B, doing the cursed charm challenge, which forces you to no-hit every boss while your charms and weapons are constantly being randomized. Ms Chalice was always stated as being designed to give new players an easier experience with the game, and to draw back old players that bounced off the difficulty before. I have no doubt my first run-through of the DLC was much easier because I exclusively used Ms Chalice. For an $8 DLC, this is such an amazing amount of content for the type of game this is. There's tons of secrets, a whole new character to play with, new weapons, 7 total bosses, 6 of which have the optional expert mode, as well as the King's Gauntlet challenges, which takes pairing to a whole new level of fun. So look, if the only thing you take away out of this DLC is that it wasn't long enough, or that it wasn't difficult enough, I actually have no idea how to finish this sentence. Maybe you just need to take another look at what the DLC presents to you, or better yet, stick around as I walk through the DLC and gush about this absolutely stunning work of art. You did it, MDHR. Your years of hard work and attention to detail have paid off yet again. So, let's run through the new weapons first. Personally, I use Crackshot the most, which does big damage if you stay close range and fires a weaker homing shot at long range. It basically feels like a better chaser with the added benefit of doing great damage when you aim. I really like Converge and it has its uses, but I feel like it will give me even more use in the base game. I'm a big fan of pea shooters, so using the RB aim mechanic was already second nature to me, and to have a high damage long range triple shot is a great addition to my arsenal personally. Twist Up is a very specialized weapon, and while they made sure it has its uses in the DLC, I actually did not end up utilizing it all that much. Although this does seem like it will be an extremely strong weapon for both Rumor Honeybottom and the Devil in the base game. I will have to give it a shot there. I don't know, it's the same thing with Lobber. I know they are good for what they do, I honestly am just too lazy to equip and use them properly. We also got the Heart Ring, which is just an amazing new charm. It will make going for S ranks easier to the less skilled players, as you can earn HP back from parries. The other charm added by the DLC is part of a secret, and I will talk about that later. We also got Ms Chalice, and yeah, she is fun. Double jump and dash parry are really intuitive to use. And sure, she is an easier character to play than the others, but there isn't anything wrong with that. She doesn't erase the challenge, you still have to dodge and aim and all those things, really just takes the pressure off of having to be extremely precise. Cuphead can come across as a very daunting endeavor, so having something that will help both slower players and even younger players is nothing but a benefit in my book. Let's get into the meat of the DLC, and start talking about the King's Gauntlet. I loved what they did with the parrying here. Mausoleums were fun, but simple. Having actual mini-bosses that take the idea to the next level, I'm gonna be honest, I feel like there's an entire other game's worth of exploring the parry mechanic based off of what we got in the DLC. The pawns were simple, and I actually had an easier time with Cuphead since you have to be both more precise and going in the correct direction with Ms Chalice's dash parry. The knight was fun to learn, and chaining 2 or 3 parries perfectly really makes you feel like a god at the game. Also, prepare to see me overuse the heck out of that taunt animation they do. The bishop was probably the easiest for me. Great animations and concept for this one, also the knockout animation goes hard. Castle was certainly the hardest for me and made me feel that rage the Cuphead players should be so used to.
Come on!
Forcing players to keep their eyes tracking both the parry balls above as well as the damage rings beneath is just straight evil, MDHR. The queen went down like a chump, the gem pattern seemed chaotic, but was actually really easy to dodge. Again, amazing animation on this. Parrying feels better than ever with this DLC, and then they even play some tricks with it in the main bosses, as we will see. Glumstone the Giant was designed as a boss to ease players back into the DLC. The first and final phase are really the only troublesome ones. Phase 2 is a perfect time to put that new twist up to good use. I find the fact that the dwarves are literally living in Glumstone's mouth and actually cooking in it to be infinitely funny. And the beard tearing animation is a perfect representation of my first time against Cal the Robot. The hand puppets in Phase 2 are a nice touch, and damn, you can fit a lot in that mouth. The final phase actually did give me some trouble as I was learning the dash parry, but all in all I would say this is the easiest fight in the DLC and a great wake-up call. Mortimer Freeze took front and center in the DLC marketing, so I don't have much else to say on the boss except yeah, the animation is just gorgeous. The Howling Aces were the second easiest for me, but wow, this boss is just stunning. I could watch the airplane animations for days. Phase 3 was the tricky part of the fight and I am dreading my S-rank attempts on this one. Esther Winchester is just a genius boss concept, and my favorite of all the coupling fights in the game. At first it was just visual chaos on the screen, but as I got a few attempts in, the patterns and signals became clear.
And it was just a hoot and a holler of a shindig after that.
Also the phase transition, where Esther turns from a normal cow to a sausage cow, might be my new favorite thing ever. I laughed so hard the first time, I had to set down the controller. Damn you MDHR, that was a good run too. And we get to the Moonshine mob. It kind of seems like a redesign of that old cut boss, and I just love it to death. There is so much great animation work here, and each phase is distinct and plays out differently. Converge was my main weapon here, and you can really stack the damage early. Also, the fake knockout was fantastic, and you almost got me, Moldenhauers. Almost. As I stated at the beginning of the video, this fight is a perfect homage to the Ants of the Plants short, and it's just a fun fight in general. Of course, we aren't done. As Chef Saltbaker ends up being evil. Surprise, surprise. Wow, what a great final boss. The bullet hell aspects are just sublime here, and the hitboxes are the best I have ever seen. Everyone and their mother will be gushing about the animation on this one, and for good reason. It's just more proof that MDHR is the best in the video game industry. The final phase is also one of the coolest ways to utilize the parry, and I really dread doing this with Pea-Shooter only. We also have some really great secrets, with hidden paths to coins and some fun riddles. Back to that worthless charm, if you equip it and talk to the 3 mountain climbers, they will give you a key to a secret in their randomized dialogue. Take the information they give you down to the cemetery and you can unlock a rematch with the devil himself. What a visual treat. The colors, the expressions, the music. It actually took me a bit to figure out that you can only take damage from the side you are facing, so learning to get the parries on that was tricky. Overall, not a tough fight, but it doesn't have to be. The visuals alone make this fight S tier. I will go much more in depth on the bosses in my S-rank video, so for now, I just want to again gush about just how lucky we are to have Studio MDHR. Sure, their development cycle might be longer than most, but that's also the reason their product's quality is second to none. This DLC is the perfect end cap to a perfect game. It's the developer's way of saying thank you to the players and to give an amazing send-off to one of the greatest games ever made.